We walk past hundreds of people every day and say absolutely nothing. It's a strange kind of collective agreement we've all signed, isn't it? A silent contract that says we should occupy the same physical space while pretending the other person is just a piece of furniture or a shadow. We use our phones as shields, holding them up like glowing talismans to ward off the terrifying possibility of a sudden and planned eye contact with a stranger. The sidewalk becomes a river of avoidant glances, a place where looking at your own shoes is the most socially acceptable thing a person can do to stay safe. I decided to tear up that contract last week, or at least I tried to poke a few holes in it to see if there was any light on the other side. My mission was simple. Also, I thought, greet 5 complete strangers every single day for the next few weeks and see what actually happens to my head. 5 people. Just a hello, or a good morning, or a small, harmless comment about the way the wind is picking up or the bus is running late again. It sounded so easy when I was sitting alone in my quiet living room, drinking tea and feeling a bit more brave than I probably had any right to be. But the moment I stepped out onto the street, the air felt different thicker, somehow, and full of a resistance I hadn't prepared myself to face. The first person I saw was a man in a sharp suit, walking fast with a coffee in one hand and a phone in the other, looking like he was already late for 1995. My heart started to thump against my ribs like a trapped bird, a physical reaction that felt entirely out of proportion to the simple act of saying hi. Why is it that we can talk to 1,000 people online without a second thought, but saying one word to a man on a sidewalk feels like a life-threatening risk? I let him pass. I failed the first test within 30 seconds of leaving my front door, and I felt a small, bitter sting of shame settle in my stomach. He looked busy, I told myself, searching for a rational excuse to hide the fact that I was just plain scared of a stranger as potential indifference. But I caught the next one, a woman walking a very small, very fluffy dog that looked like it was more cloud than animal, which felt like a safe starting point. "Nice morning for a walk," I said, and my voice sounded a bit higher and more thin than it usually does, like I was playing a character in a bad play. She looked up, surprised for a split second, and then she smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached her eyes and made the whole street feel a bit warmer. "It really is," she said, and then she was gone, leaving me standing there with a sudden, sharp rush of dopamine that felt better than any like on the screen. I felt like a hero. I felt like I had just cracked a secret code that everyone else was still struggling to figure out while they stared at their own reflections. But then came the second day, and the second day didn't care about my small victory or my sudden, fragile sense of newfound social confidence. I tried to greet a younger guy with massive headphones and a look of pure, concentrated focus that seemed to say do not disturb under any circumstances. I said hello anyway, and he didn't even blink. He just kept walking, his eyes fixed on some point on the horizon that only he could see in his own world. He didn't hear me, or maybe he did and just didn't care. But the stare I got from the person walking behind him was enough to make me want to vanish. It was a look of confusion mixed with a bit of judgment, as if I had just done something slightly embarrassing or maybe even a little bit dangerous in public. Risking that look is a heavy weight. It has the risk of being seen as that person, the one who talks to people for no reason, the one who breaks the wall. We're so afraid of being seen as crazy that we've made lonely the new normal, which is a trade-off that I'm starting to think was a very bad deal. I noticed you're probably listening to this while you're out somewhere, maybe sitting on a train or waiting for a friend in a crowded, noisy coffee shop. You've probably seen me, or someone like me, and looked at your shoes just to be sure that the silence stayed intact and that the wall remained solid. It's okay. I'm not judging you. I was that person for 30 years, and to be honest, I'm still that person most of the time when I'm not on a mission. By day 5, the courage I thought I was gaining started to feel a lot more like a series of bruises that were taking a long time to heal. I had been ignored 3 times in one afternoon, and each time felt like a small, quiet rejection of my own humanity and my own attempt at connection. Is this even worth it? I asked myself as I sat on a park bench, watching people walk by like they were part of a movie I wasn't allowed to star in. Am I really building courage? Or am I just learning how to be annoying to people who just want to be left alone with their own private thoughts? Maybe the invisible wall is there for a reason. Maybe it's the only thing that keeps a city from becoming a chaotic, overwhelming mess of voices. There's a comfort in the silence of a crowd. It's a space where you don't have to perform, where you don't have to be on all interesting to anyone else. But then I thought about the word stranger. We are all strangers to ourselves sometimes, lost in the noise of our own expectations and our own fears. Sometimes you have to speak just to make sure you're still there, to hear your own voice echoing off another human being like a sonar ping in the dark. I wonder if the courage isn't in the hello itself, but in the willingness to be seen as a fool for a few seconds by someone you will never see again. If I can survive a bad look from a guy in a park, can I survive a bad review at work? Can I survive a difficult conversation with someone I actually love? It feels like the small muscles of my soul are being stretched, and stretching always hurts a bit before it makes you more flexible and more strong. Day 10 was the hardest. I didn't want to go out at all. The thought of 5 more people felt like a mountain I didn't have the energy to climb that day. I felt a strange kind of social burnout, the exhaustion from the constant pressure of having to be the one who initiates the bridge between 2 worlds. I realized that I was relying on their reaction to validate my own bravery, which is just another way of being dependent on the world for your own worth. If they smiled, I was brave. If they ignored me, I was a loser. It was a binary system that was making me more anxious, not less, as the days went by. I had to learn to say hello from me, not for them. I had to learn to let the word hang in the air like a gift that they were allowed to refuse if they wanted. Once I stopped caring about the return on my social investment, the game changed into something a bit more dry and a bit more ironic and fun. I started to enjoy the awkwardness. The way some people jump like they've been touched by a ghost when a stranger acknowledges their existence. It's a bit funny, really. How much power a 2-syllable word has over the atmosphere of a crowded elevator or a busy street corner in the afternoon. I'm not a demon of discipline yet, but I'm a person who can look a stranger in the eye without feeling like I am about to fall off a tall building. I noticed a man sitting on a wall today, just looking at the sky, and I said hi as I walked past him toward my own busy and complicated life. He just nodded, one single, short movement of his head that said, "I see you." And that was it. No deep conversation, no life-changing connection. But for that 1 second, we weren't just to ghosts moving through a gray city. We were to people who had acknowledged the shared fact of being alive. I wonder if he felt a bit more real after that, or if he just thought I was a bit weird and then went back to thinking about whatever he was thinking about. I'll never know. And that's the beauty of it, I think. The mystery of the stranger is the only thing that keeps the world from feeling finished. If we knew everyone, we'd have nothing left to discover. No reason to keep looking up from our screens to see what else might be out there. I'm still not sure if I've broken any walls, or if I've just learned how to lean against them without feeling so much of the cold and the dampness. Maybe the wall is supposed to be there, but we're just supposed to build more doors and keep the handles well oiled and ready to be turned at any time. My voice still shakes sometimes when I speak to someone new, but the shake doesn't scare me as much as the silence used to when I was hiding. The mission is officially over, but I find myself still looking for that fifth person every day, even when I don't have to write it down in a notebook. It's become a habit, a small ritual of vulnerability that reminds me that I'm still a part of the world, even when the world feels far away and loud. If you find yourself looking at your shoes today, maybe just try looking at one face instead, just for a second, to see what color their eyes are. You don't even have to say anything. Just notice them. Notice that they are carrying a heavy bag, or a heavy heart, or a heavy sense of their own silence. And if you do feel like saying hello, remember that the risk is small, but the reward of feeling human again is actually quite large and quite beautiful. We walk past hundreds of people every day and say absolutely nothing. But maybe tomorrow we'll say one thing and the world will feel a bit less empty. I think I'll stop here for today. The street is calling, and I still have 3 more people to greet before the sun goes down and the day is done. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.